I'd like to welcome everybody out to the January 7th special meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to 2026. Today will be our first starting off, will be with our financial update. Ms. Tara, I'll bring you to the floor.
Tara, before you start, could I explain to the public what we're doing? Because you don't normally do this. We all wanted to make sure that the public knew where monies came from, how we budget them, and then some of the information on the projects that we do. So the thought is that we educate the public on a base knowledge about our monies, and then as we develop our budget, we move everybody forward together. So we know this is something a little different, a little new. We know you took a lot of time to do this, and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so actually, I appreciate the chance to do this. I love talking about what I do. And so this is going to be a broad upper level overview, but with some detail. So let's see. So some of the questions people ask are, what is local government finance? How is it different from the public or from the private sector? And what does the finance officer do? So local government finance. Local government finance involves managing the revenue and expenditures of towns, cities, counties. There's also other local units of government to fund the public services and infrastructure that we all have. We are governed with our finances by the Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act, which is the North Carolina General Statute 159. It does bleed over into other statutes but this is our main statute. So local government has oversight from the North Carolina Treasurer's Local Fiscal Management Section, which is more commonly known as the LGC, which is the Local Government Commission. The LGC monitors the financial health and compliance of each unit in North Carolina. This includes reviewing our debt if it meets certain thresholds. So if it meets certain thresholds, they actually have to approve our debt. We also submit our annual audits to them, and they review them every year. That actually has been more streamlined. So it's actually uploaded to their website now, and we get a lot more comments back. So they're more heavily involved because it's more electronic than it used to be. Mm-hmm. Let's see. So different from private sector. So local government is not in the business of making a profit. We are here to provide the best service that we possibly can. North Carolina local government finance is also more restricted. So we're not allowed to just do whatever we want to do. In North Carolina, you have to have a statute that says you can do this. And you don't need to find a statute that says you can't. So there's a lot of states across the country that go by home rule, which means that if a statute doesn't say you can't do it, then you can. But here, you actually have to have a statute saying you are able to do this. And so North Carolina is one of the more restrictive. That's part of why, as a whole, North Carolina has maintained well and done well through hard times financially. So finance officer. So at its core, the finance officer's job is to protect the public's funds. So we collect, hold, and spend on behalf of our communities. The finance officer is personally, legally responsible for making sure that those dollars are received, recorded, and spent the right way. So all finance officers across the state have to be bonded by at least 10% of their budget, up to $1 million. And here in North Carolina, in Sunset Beach, I am bonded at $1 million. So we also, my roles and responsibilities are also laid out in the statutes of exactly what I have to do. So local government finance is considered fund accounting. It's also modified accrual accounting, which means all year long we're on a cash basis, except for one day out of the year. On June 30th, we are on an accrual basis. So every year you will see, like, well, you may not see, but every year the finance department, we have to do adjusting entries to get everything into the correct fiscal year. So these are our funds that we have. We have the general fund, the Powellville fund, accommodation tax fund, the beach erosion fund, the capital reserve fund, a community park fund, and then we have the Palm Cove dredging project fund. Each one of these we'll touch on through this. And every fund has a fund balance. People like to call it the savings account for the towns. It's basically what it is. One of the myths is that there's a statutory minimum maximum fund balance, and that is absolutely not true. There is no minimum, and there is no maximum. So the local government commission has adjusted how they look at fund balance. It's now based on your peer group, based on your expenditures from prior years. So if you want to, I'll go to the next one. I went through and kind of pulled some of the ones out of our peer group that are in the same area as us, because one of the things for our fund balance is that being on the coast, we are very vulnerable to tourism. We're vulnerable to storms. There's different things that can really affect us and really affect our revenues. So for the fund balance for our general fund for Sunset, we also assign some fund balance because this percentage doesn't really take into account, like, our inspections funds have to be spent on the inspections fund. So they're kind of assigned, set off to the side. They're still in the main number for what is on the treasurer's website, which these numbers came directly from that. The most current they have is from fiscal year 23-24. So we are very much in line with some. You'll see Boiling Spring Lakes is kind of an anomaly. They had their dam break a few years ago, and that has taken up a lot of their funding. That was a storm that had come through. I think it was the year I started here, 7 years ago. But you'll see, like, you can kind of tell when a town is planning for something big coming up, because they will increase their fund balance, or they'll set it aside in a capital reserve fund. But that way you can see they're preparing for something, or they know that they have capital expenditures coming. It's just one of the things that we do. And fund balance changes every single day. So we get snapshots with the audit. So at June 30th of 2025, that snapshot is 106% fund balance. If you flip to the next day of July 1, we're at 96%. So our medium average for our peer group, because some are super high and some are super low, is 99%. We do not have to stay at 99%. That's just a goal that the LGC is looking at. They know that there are people that use it for savings. If we were to steadily decline our fund balance, they would start contacting the town and saying, what are you doing? Why are you spending this money? How are you spending this money? Because they don't want you to use your fund balance on any operational that is going to have going forward, because you have to be able to prepare for that. So let's see. I kind of went over some of these. The purposes of having a strong fund balance is how our revenues come in. So that's what cash flow is. So our property tax does not start coming in until October, November, December, January. You want to be able to make sure that you can carry through until those revenues start coming in, because most expenditures happen at the beginning of a fiscal year. Because if a department says we need new trucks and they budgeted for it, or they're going to want that right away. And we want them to order that right away, because there have been times where it's taken 10, 11 months or more to get these vehicles in, to have it in that. So we encumber that amount right out the gate in July, which you'll see in some of these budgets where these lines are completely maxed out, and it's because of the front loading of the expenditures for the year. Reserve for emergencies, unforeseen events, unexpected opportunities. These are where you'll see budget amendments for different things, where there's a deal that's coming, or a car broke down, or just different things that can happen. They can happen in everybody's everyday life, or they can happen to a local government. So it's something that we have. So increased investment income is, you'll see that our investment income for interest has climbed up. It's absolutely affected by what is happening with the Federal Reserve and things like that. So as that changes, our investment interest also changes. So we can avoid short-term borrowing. You're going to actually see an example of this with the fire truck. We can get lower interest rates on the borrowings, avoid rate increases or service reductions, and avoid LGC warnings. So types of revenue. So we have property tax, which is ad valorem, the county fire fees, we have motor vehicle tax, sales and use tax. There are other smaller governmental revenues from the county and the state, such as like utility franchise tax. There's like the ABC board revenue that we get. There's different things that are much smaller amounts that come in. We have permits and fees, service charges, and then like non-recurring that we typically can't budget for ahead because we don't know if we're actually going to get them, like the grants and other miscellaneous revenues. And then we also have occupancy tax here. So ad valorem tax, or property tax, is the revenue that we actually have control over. So most of the other revenues we can't really determine or have any say on how that works, but we do have control over the property tax rate. For us here, for this current budget that we're in, that makes up 39% of our overall budget. And at the School of Government, different classes I've been to, most professors will tell you that they want it to be somewhere between 40 and 50%. So we're very close to that. We also have many different revenue sources, so we are absolutely fine at 39%. That's not alarming. I did do this pie chart so you could see where these are coming from. So it shows the property taxes at 39%. The other intergovernmental, so that's like the sales and use tax, utility franchise tax, just like regular, like county fire fees, things like that are in that 43%. And then the other ones are what it was at the very beginning of the budget. These are not actual numbers. So, and then I put the expenditures with this just because I had it. We're not necessarily going to go through all of these expenditures and what the budget is or anything like that, but this is just good information for you to have. And this is almost exactly the same as every municipality across the state. Fire and police are going to make up public safety, which is the majority of your budget. And that is absolutely common. So I put this, when I go through this presentation that I do with the budget pretty much every year, I always put this in here. And it's always eye-opening to somebody. So when you get your tax bill in Sunset Beach, the town of Sunset Beach only gets 32% of that tax bill typically. Depending on what the county does with their tax rate, they get the majority of your bill. So if you have a home valued at $400,000, your bill is going to be $2,008. The town of Sunset Beach gets $640 of that. The rest of it goes to the county. County fire fees. So we do have fire fees, and these are based on square footage. They can only be used in the fire department, and they're used on operational for our department. The revenue increase that we've had over time has been due to an increase in homes. We haven't had a rate increase in a couple years. It also includes homes outside of our city limits. So we can go 6 miles from the fire station for the new developments and things like that. The Brunswick County has been talking a lot and stating how these departments are all changing. there's been a reduction in volunteers, the ability to have volunteers. And so the needs of all these departments are increasing. We know that one of the hot topics is fire fees versus fire tax. And the latest information that we have is that we are not going to have to face that for budget 26-27. But Chief Childress, we're watching it, making sure that we keep our eye on that. So motor vehicle tax, it's 1 to 2% of the budget. This used to be a problem because it was harder to collect. But now that it's tied to your registration over the last however many years, we get pretty much 100% of this. So sales and use tax is another one of our significant revenues. One of the things that people think is that the sales and use tax comes from dollars spent inside of your municipality, and that is not true. It is sales tax from the entire county. And then the county takes all of that money, as well as the state, and they divvy it out based on your population for Brunswick County. They could change it and say that we're going to base it on your property tax, but I think it was last year or the year before, the state said, you cannot change this in April and expect these municipalities to adjust their budgets before July 1. So now we have to have a whole year of advance notice to know that they're going to change that. Because as you can see, we here would lose approximately 28% of the sales tax that we have. But that also means that the county would gain that money. So let's see. Let me go to the next one. These are some of the other revenues: utility sales, beer and wine, the solid waste disposal, ABC local and ABC law enforcement. We do not have any control over what these revenues are. We project them, and we project them conservatively. So the League of Municipalities put a report out every year, usually around the beginning of March. And so I will take the numbers that we currently have and what our trending has looked like over the last 3 to 5 years for these revenues, and also take this report from the League of Municipalities in order to project or estimate these revenues the best that we can for the next fiscal year. We do always watch what the legislation is doing, because there have been attempts to remove some of these revenues from the towns. Right now, sales tax is one of the ones that we are watching, because a portion of that sales tax, there's different things that are happening with like DHHS, and they would get additional money from the county that would take it away from the municipalities. That is not currently happening, but it's something that we have to watch, because it could be a good percentage of what we get. There was a few years ago an attempt to remove all ABC revenues from towns, and that failed. We have the League of Municipalities, the Finance Officer Association. There's different associations that look out for municipalities and what they're facing with legislation. And so they communicate with us a lot, telling us, write in your concerns. And so that, because they will listen. So we have permits and fees. So I had mentioned the building inspection fee previously. These are restricted and can only be used in the inspections department. And we have an assigned fund balance for that for the inspections department. We also get revenue from zoning fees. Both of these are variable and they're sensitive to economic changes. So it basically depends on the growth and what's happening in the town, the economy, things like that. So I usually will meet with Carrie about these revenues. So now we have service charges. Right now we have recycling. So our recycling program is based on what GFL tells us. So the GFL sets their rate for Sunset Beach. We add a small administrative fee to that. I want to say it's between like $5 and $7 per year. It's not a significant we have updated that process, and so it takes a lot less time than it used to. But basically, the application fee that is paid to Sunset Beach gets paid out to GFL. We just pretty much manage it to get a cost savings to the public, and it's pretty significant. We have the beach wheelchair rentals. That program's not really, well, none of these are really to make money. That kind of covers administration costs and having to drive the chairs out there, replacement, things like that. We get revenue for the special events, and then the parking program. And we also have the violations and fines, which with the way that the parking is now, it's kind of lumped, some of that's lumped into the parking program. Let's see. So these are non-recurring revenues. They're grants or special assessments or other revenues that we get. So we don't typically budget for some of these at the beginning of the year. So grants, you really, unless you already have been approved for the grant, you're not going to budget for getting the grant. Sale of surplus, we have no idea how much money we're going to get for the individual sales that we have. So we don't really budget an amount for that. That would be a budget amendment that would come to you. They say, we want to use this money that we sold this equipment. We would like to use this money for this purpose. Or it just goes into fund balance. Donations is the same way. Sometimes the donations have a very specific purpose to them, where we're giving you this money and we want to use it on this for this purpose. It was in fiscal year 24-25, have received a $50,000 donation for somebody that would like a plaque at Majestic Oak Park. And so that is kind of set aside. We won't touch it. And we know that it's a donation and has a specific purpose tied to it. So occupancy tax. So we have a local act that gives us this authority to collect occupancy or accommodation tax. We get 6% here. 1%, we receive that 1% and turn around and give it back to the county, but we keep a small percentage of that for administration purposes for collecting it on their behalf. 2% is allocated to the beach erosion fund, and then 3% is allocated to the accommodation tax fund. So I just kind of put the blurb from our local act down there, what it can be used for. Ours is very broad because we do not have a tourism development authority. And so we have the ability to use this money widely, which is not common. I want to say there's like 6 other municipalities that are able to, they did not change their local act. And so that's what gives us the flexibility with that. So this is where the accommodation tax side, it is hard to forecast. It's always forecasted conservatively. At the end of the year, there is a transfer into general fund for public safety, for infrastructure, different things that tourism would actually have an effect on our town. So that's why we're able to transfer it. The weather, the economy, all those things can either bring people here or deter them from coming. So I have a tax comparison in here for just for informational purposes for you to kind of see where we fit in the county. And I highlighted Sunset Beach in there. The ones at the top, they don't have, they have limited services and they have no police department, which is part of why theirs is so much lower. I believe that at some point, some of them may end up having to have a police department. And so you may see stronger fund balances for them. So if we were to, this will never happen, but if we were to lose all of our other revenue sources, our tax rate would be 40 cents for our budget the way it is now. It's never going to be that drastic. It's just kind of like an interesting number to know. So going after these grants and getting different pools of revenue coming in, it absolutely helps our residents. All right, so projects. So I have on here the fire truck. So we ordered this fire truck a few years ago. It feels like it's been forever ago that we ordered the fire truck, but we have been setting aside money into a capital reserve fund for the remainder of this fire truck. So the total cost of the fire truck was $933,000, and we put a down payment of $150,000, which did save us some money. It reduced the cost of the fire truck by putting a down payment. And then over time, we have been able to set aside $706,000 into the capital reserve fund. So that truck should be here late 2026, I think. But it will be here in the next budget cycle. So we would have to budget around $77,000 in order to pay for the rest of that. So catchment 7, this is not money that we have spent to date. This is the engineering costs are what we have spent to date, and the supplies are what we have spent to date. The construction cost is the amount of the contract. I think we've only made one payment for this, which I believe was around 100,000 or just over 100,000. So there's still payment requests coming on this, but once it's completed, the total project cost at this time would be around 460,000. So then I laid out a summary of the parking program. So this was as of November 30th, the revenue that we received in December for November. I think we just received the revenue for December, but I haven't been able to get that updated yet. So the total parking cost as of December 31st is $766,000. And then you'll see that the amount that we still need to make up is just over $300,000 of revenues minus expenditures. And this has the spreadsheet with all the details online on the website. So you'll see every single expenditure and every month's revenue that's already out there for this past season's parking program. And then Majestic Oak, this is going to be hard to see, but this is kind of a breakdown of where we are for the budget, the actual, and remaining. Oh, I also want to say this whole entire presentation is in a PDF form on the website. I should have said that at the beginning, but we did put it out there. So everything that we're talking about today is on the website. And then this is the land purchase, but I did a summary page to make it easier. I wanted you to have the details of where everything is, but I figured for the presentation purposes, it'd be easier to have a summary. So the total grant funding for this project was this 1.6 million. That is, we received $750,000 for the purchase. The construction, we have not received any revenue yet. That is on a reimbursement basis. For construction at this point, we've spent around $70,000 on engineering costs. So we will have more information on that to follow. The town portion of the purchase was almost 1.9 million. And then the town's portion for the construction is 725,000. This has been transferred into Fund 41, which is Sunset Beach Parks. So we have the matching funds already set aside in a fund. So then you can see the total cost for the purchase, the total cost for construction, and once complete, past, I guess it's phase 1, is 4.25 million. And then the parking in front of Town Park that has been completed, the construction of that is based on on-road parking. So when we had reached out to Powell Bills, we were able to use Powell Bill funds of $489,000. And then the engineering costs came from general fund, which is 25.5. And I did not total that, but those that's the total cost that's on that. So then we can go through the debt. So we have the fire engine. That is actually going to be paid off in the next fiscal year. And you see the total cost. What with the interest was 517,000, and then that was the amount that we financed. The interest that we have remaining is 1,000, and the principal that we have remaining is just over 50,000. So we have 2 payments remaining for that, and that'll be in the next budget. We also have a ladder truck that we purchased in 2021. We did sell a truck prior to purchasing this one, and that the amount that was made off of that truck was 275,000. So that was put down as a down payment on this ladder truck. So the total finance was the 572,000. Total interest is 48,000. And then we have 9 payments have been made, 11 payments remaining. And so those are the amounts there. I will say that on all of these that we have, there is no prepayment penalty. So if you put money down or you pay it off completely, it would be interest to date of payoff. The other one is the Majestic Oak land purchase. So the total cost was the almost 2.5 million. We did receive $750,000 in grants. Part of the grant, or the Part F grant, we used that money as the down payment on that. We had gotten a variance from Part F to get the money prior to the purchase, and we're able to put that down. We financed 1.5 million. Once we received the DEQ grant, we paid the principal down by 250,000. Then the total interest after the additional payment, once we pay it off, if it goes all the way, would be 490,000. And then that's the total that's remaining is 1.3 million. So one of the things that has been discussed, I also had the fund balance thing at the back to make it bigger if y'all wanted to see it. It's bigger online as well for that purpose. So it's the second tab in the back. This is a line by line breakdown of where all our financials are. So I will make a note on this. We budget by, right now, we budget by purpose. So when you look at the ordinance, it's by general government or by public safety. And I can't remember how the other ones are because I didn't bring the budget with me or the budget ordinance with me. We do not budget line by line. So if a line item is over or at capacity, it's not a compliance issue. That department and I have conversations of this is going to be a little bit more expensive or whatever, and we can adjust within those departments, and we're still very much in compliance because we budget even higher level than that. I believe going forward, we're going to bring it back into budgeting as department by department. It will be based on how council wants to proceed. So there are some notes I want to make about what we have in here. Our liability insurance and our workers' comp insurance, we get audited on those, and then they send us additional invoices, and all of those came over budget. So most of the red that you will see is due to we have had workers' comp claims. I believe that at this point all of them are closed, so which is good. I cannot say that for a fact, but this will improve. So our rate will improve over time as we get further away from having any work comp claims. The liability insurance changes consistently with however our equipment changes, how personnel changes, the different liabilities, how we add them in. So that's basically where we are with those. If you have any specific questions about the line by line, you can always send them to me, and then we can discuss that at the presentation on the 12th as well. Because I know you all are just getting this today. But I wanted to kind of give you an explanation of how we budget, what that looks like. If it's a concern, we are within compliance. So I can assure you of that. So do you all have any questions for me as far as where we are with the finances or anything that I have, the loads of information I have just thrown at you today?
The fire trucks. Excuse me. I want to make sure I got, this is not exact numbers, but we owe on 3. Is that correct?
No.
No.
Well, I mean, so as far as debt goes, we have 2 fire truck loans. We have a third one that's on order. And so we have the money set aside in a fund. Once that's delivered, that's when they will invoice us, and that's
Right.
when we would encumber the cost.
Okay.
But we do have almost all of that. I think it's 76,000 is what we will need to budget in this next budget.
Right. Okay.
There's only 3 loans that we have right now. 2 are the fire trucks, and 1 is the Majestic Oak land.
Very good.
But the last truck that's currently being put together, that one will be paid off without a loan, correct?
Correct.
That's the one.
I mean,
we
you
owe
can all choose to do that
76,000.
differently, but we have the money set aside. Yeah.
That's the one that we owe the 76,000 on.
Yeah.
Is that right?
We would have to budget. Yeah. I mean, we'd have to budget the whole thing, but we'd have to budget additional fund balance or revenues
Sure.
for the next year. Yeah.
But we do have the one that's a 2021. We owe around 340, and that's the principal and the balance, right? 340,000
Let me look at it.
that we owe.
Yes.
Yeah, 325,000.
And then
Yeah, plus the 15.
Yeah, you have to pay the
I mean,
interest.
if
put the
you were to
interest
pay
in.
that off early, then you would pay interest to date and save whatever the interest, the rest of the interest remaining would be.
Have we ever paid one off early?
I'm not sure. Not since I've been here. I don't believe so. But there's no penalty.
Right.
If you were to do that.
Could we talk about the town park? Because I noticed in your presentation, you have construction of park, and then you got / Powell bill funds. And we know that all Powell bill money didn't use.
This
were
is
not
the amount.
used.
This is the amount of Powell bill money that went into the parking that's on Sunset Boulevard.
Do we have a breakdown of? Excuse me, I've been sick. Do we have a breakdown of how much of the Powell bill monies were used for the construction of that park? And I'm presuming it's just the street in and the street out.
So
Or was it
on-street
more?
parking is a allowable use,
Right.
and so that project was paid out of Powell bill funds because it's the streets, and then the on-street parking.
So basically, it's all 89,000 was
Right.
Powell money,
Correct.
100%.
Yeah.
So we used all of the Powell bill money to construct that town park.
On whatever is on Sunset Boulevard, it wasn't in the park. It was you're talking about between the park and
Dave's. In between there's that town park. Oh, do
It's
we use all of the
street.
town allotment for Powell bill money? Do we use all of that allotment for that construction of that whole parking lot? Or was it just the streets? The street that goes in and the street that goes out?
There was nothing outside of the streets that I'm aware of. I'm not aware of like the total. If there was something outside of the parking and the street, then I'm not aware of that. Everything that I knew was on Sunset Boulevard North. So it's this way and then this way. And the parking, I think there's parking on the side and then there's parking in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
if I remember right. That is Powell bill funds. So the 489,000 is the Powell bill funds. The engineering that was prior to construction was from general fund.
Now,
I don't know if I'm answering your
You
question
are.
correctly.
Yes, you are.
What
You're
the-
answering.
now, that didn't deplete the Powell bill fund.
No, there's still money in the Powell bill fund. I don't have that number with me. It's
About
in the
how
audit.
much do we get per year in power bill?
Around
200,000?
200,000.
And this project was 489,000.
Correct. Yeah. So part of it came out of the Powell because each fund has a fund balance, and so part of that came out of the fund balance for Powell bill and then allocation.
So are you saying we used 2.5 years of POW bill money for this town parking? Is that,
I mean, I guess it would
In
be
theory.
approximately that. I would have to
Yeah.
go back and see what we had received in the past. I know that this year we're at 101,000 per tranche, so it's probably 202,000. As far as like a percentage, I can't really say, but I would say it's probably close to that.
is that the only option to use the POW bill money just there at the park? I mean, were there other funds or a project that you would typically do that with or not?
I mean, for me, I'm not aware of what projects people are planning, if that's what you're saying, or
Right.
like conditions, things like that. That would be more of a department.
Okay,
My part of it is this a compliant purchase or a compliant? I don't necessarily, I don't choose.
Right.
I bring the information
Right.
and then, town council will make their decision. Department heads have their projects, things like that.
but in theory, the POW
You could
bill
use it on
money,
any
that was
street repair.
used, right? So the rest of the town didn't get the repairs because that parking took place. Basically, I guess is what
I can't say that.
But that would be, that money was used for that, I guess, is what we're saying.
That money
here,
was used for that project.
specifically.
May I? The discussion, even after the parking lot, the area that we're talking about by the park was done, discussion at that time was the main road that they were planning on doing in three phases was Clubhouse Road because of all the road took so much damage from when the bridge was closed that they were going to do it in 3 different sections, and the engineers were going to review them to decide what sections should be done first and in what order. And they would use the Powell fund to be used for that various sections. And that was a discussion under the other prior town council. I don't know whatever the change will be, but that was a discussion because of like I said, the toll it took on Clubhouse Road. So-
Right. Are there any other questions?
I'm good. Thank you very much. It's a very good presentation.
Well, thank you.
Very
Thank you,
informative.
Tara.
Thank you.
And this is also on the website, just so anybody watching needs the information and couldn't see it here, it is available. Thank you.
Where would it be on the website for anybody that's listening that wants to see it? Where would it be on the website
Under the agenda for today.
for today? On the agenda for today?
Mhm.
Very good.
Thank you again, Terry. Now we'll come to the public comments on agenda items on this. If anyone would like to speak, you're welcome to come up. Sorry about that. Again, thank you, Terry. Now it's public comments on this items. If anybody would like to say anything, you're more welcome to come up. If not, do I have a motion to adjourn this financial part of the meeting?
I'll make a motion.
All right,
Adjourn.
do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That ends that one, and then we